My name is Vita Davis, and I was in the Navy as Vita Summa, and my rank at the time was Hospital Corpsman 3rd Class. I was encouraged to join the military right out of high school. What led me there was my desire to get an education. At the time, college was out of the question financially, and I knew that serving in our military would give me then the GI Bill to go to school when I was finished with my enlistment. And that's where I was when I talked to a Navy recruiter, and he gave me some information, and I decided to go ahead and join the Navy. Basic training was in Recruit Training Command Women at Bainbridge, Maryland. A pretty cold place in the wintertime. Okay, basic training was, I believe, was several months because it was over the winter months. I remember that. Standing at attention on the grinder in the middle of January was not a very pleasant experience. We took classes in ships, aircraft, weapons, combat classes, learning all about different weapons and what the military could do. We also took history, and we learned military justice classes, anything that would help us to serve our country and to be in the Navy and to make our enlistment something that was pleasant and also be able to do something worthwhile while we were in the military. We had a couple of different uniforms that we wore back then. We wore regular kind of black, blue, navy blue pants and a light blue chino kind of shirt, like a chambray shirt. That was our work uniform, and we had a little watch cap that we wore, a little chevron kind of cap. Then we also had dress blues, wool skirt, wool jacket, the Navy, female Navy cap. And then we had a white uniform for summer, and we had a light blue uniform for summer with short sleeves as well. Also a trench coat that we wore, and we had something we called, I believe back then it was called a haversack, and it was a cover that went over your head, over your cap as well, so that keep you warm and keep the wind and the rain off you. Boot camp, we began with maybe 50 ladies in my company. There were several other companies on the Bainbridge at boot camp at the time, different areas. I think by the time we graduated, we may have had 30. So we did lose some. It was pretty tough training. You know, you had to get up early and march and do things and go to class, and then you had details in the evening, cleaning details or whatever. And you didn't have much freedom. You weren't allowed off base. So it was pretty restrictive. And it was pretty difficult. I ended up being one of the recruit petty officers for my company. I was the mustering petty officer. So it was my job to make sure that my company got to breakfast, lunch, dinner on time, that they were squared away in their uniforms, and that we were marching appropriately across the grinder and down into the different parts of the base. So I think it was very difficult. I remember the day we arrived, the very first, we went to bed and nobody told us what would happen in the morning. So the very first thing we heard in the morning was, the lights went on, it's 5 o'clock in the morning, someone screaming, "Hit the line, ladies!" And none of us knew what that meant. So we all just wandered around bewildered for a few minutes in our nightgowns and pajamas. And finally, the captain of our squad, who was in charge of all of us, then she came over and explained what we needed to do: stand at attention at the end of your bunk and be ready for an inspection and get, you didn't have much time to get dressed, but you had to be squared away. And then of course the barracks had to be squared away. The bathrooms had to be spotless, your bunk bed had to be made, every little nuance had to be, detail had to be done. So it was quite a shock for some of the young ladies not having to do anything like that at home where they grew up. But we adjusted pretty much, and we all became good friends, and we learned that in order to survive, you had to count on each other and help each other through the day. The food at basic training, I didn't get to really enjoy the food at basic training because as the mustering petty officer, my job was to get all of my company in, and I was the last one through the chow line with my company. So that by the time I sat down to eat, it was time to get up to leave. So my the most vivid thing I remember were eggs, and to this day I can't eat like sunny side up eggs because they were never done quite right. So, runny kind of eggs. But the rest, you didn't really have much to complain about because it was that or nothing. So you learned to eat the food the way it was presented to you and to sit down and eat very fast because you had just 20 minutes to eat. I still eat very fast, which is a problem. Well, it's downtime. Sometimes we did some sing-alongs. We had some young ladies who brought guitars and could play and sing, and we played games, board games, puzzles. A lot of the time we sat in front of our cubicles because there were not rooms, and we did a lot of spit shining of our shoes and sung at the same time, or you did your uniform, got it squared away for the next morning. So you might be doing some ironing and some laundry and cleaning the barracks. Every week, of course, you had a field day, which is the day that you really clean everything top to bottom. And so that was not, I guess, looking at that, downtime was still work time in a sense. The graduation ceremony was very impressive. All of the companies that were graduating, there would be maybe 4 at a time graduating. They would be in their dress blues, very, very sharp looking, out on the grinder, and we did a march. Of course, you did some maneuvers and marching, and then everyone received a certificate of diploma, whatever. And then there was some celebrating with families who came to see the graduation ceremony. And of course, there was a Navy band to play. And so it was quite impressive. We had 30 days off. So that was the time people went home to visit families and to get things squared away at home and get ready to go to your next duty station. So that's basically what I did, and many of the young ladies did. You went home to visit your family, who you hadn't seen for all that time that you were at boot camp. So you went to boot camp. It was in January when we went to boot camp, so it was spring already by the time you went home.